So it's 11th day of the moon, which means that there's a special secretion happening in the glandular system today. So you can do a special kind of healing. There's some things that we'll practice today that are specifically designed for just doing on the 11th day of the moon, or activating, they're most powerful on the 11th day of the moon. So the glandular, I mentioned this yesterday, but you guys were doing yoga while I was talking about it, which is basically the glandular system of a woman is deeply affected by her negativity and we'll call it the pattern of destructive communication that she participates in. And so Yogi Bhajan says it starts damaging first the hypothalamus, then the ovaries, all the reproductive organs, and then the kidneys and the adrenals. Kind of interesting because so many women particularly have adrenal fatigue. So I read this yesterday. I thought I've never heard him say this. So that the basically connected to how much negativity and negative communication or fighting or gossiping or, there is a positive gossiping, which is that, you're basically creating a time where you can gossip with the women in your life, particularly, or whoever, who likes to gossip. It depends on the men. Some men do like to gossip, so you can, it's not gender specific, but so there is some positive gossiping that can happen, and that's why it's important to have women's community, because women actually need to kind of move the jaw. It's actually a glandular secretion that happens, that when it's done in a positive way and in a kind of, everything we do in here is you're taking things that you would do sub or unconsciously and bringing them into a conscious awareness, so that way they can either alchemize and change, or the pattern totally changes, or it changes because you're bringing a conscious awareness to it. So it's not that the gossiping is bad itself, it's just the kind of the way it's done and how it's done. So we'll not say, not all gossiping is a destructive communication. Some of it actually can be very relieving. I try to do it with my team. If we have long meetings, I make sure that we have, I purposefully be like, hey, did you, and then everybody starts gossiping, because it creates a secretion in women. It creates a specific secretion in women to move the mouth, and it's ancient. It's been thousands and thousands of years, and some so it's not gender specific, but so not all communication like that is, but we have a lot of negative self talk. So hardly any of us are waking up and thinking, I am the exalted emanation of the creative force of the universe. Every particle in my body is a manifestation of this. It's a micro, macro, cosmic power that lives in me as the God self, the Godhead, and everything I think is the thoughts of the great kind of cosmic mind. And today is a day that will never happen again, and I am deeply grateful. I mean, that's not what you thought this morning, right? So, it's a good thing. It's a good little self-psychology practice to pay attention to the first thought you have in the morning that you're conscious of. Usually it's pretty mean towards yourself. It's pretty nasty. Because in the morning, it depends, this is why we wake ourselves up in the early morning. You're catching a little bit of that subconscious before the subconscious film settles on it's like dew on the grass. Before that happens, you're kind of catching it. So maybe if you're waking up in the Amrit Vela, you may not be thinking as negatively towards yourself. You're certainly thinking, why the fuck am I getting up right now? So it might be more something like that. But it's usually not quite very positive. So we have a lot of that negative self-talk. So that affects the glandular system. It affects, and over the years, we now have all of these. I gave a class last night on hormonal issues in women, and we're now an epidemic kind of. They're saying that a lot of the things that women are experiencing, like all of the symptomatics of the irritabilities and the fertility issues and the headaches and the this and the that, all of them are a sign of low level to not low level to quite high level hormonal imbalances. So we're having an epidemic of hormonal imbalance in the modern woman. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but that's part of it is that we're dealing with a huge amount of stress, but in these kind of internal realms, that self-communication is not very positive. So we have that. Then we have all the communication with everyone intimately in our lives. Now, some of us like to fight. And you should know if you're one of these people. You have to understand this is what we're doing in Immense Grace. Self-psychology is the most important thing that you can be cultivating. No one is a greater psychologist of you than you. So you got to figure out. So if you're like, no, I'm not, I'm really not like that, and then I bring that line up, and they're like, girls throwing dishes, she's screaming and yelling, she, if she doesn't have a fight every couple of days, she picks one. If it's that different between what you think you are like and whoever has to deal with you, then you're not doing good self-psychology. So you have to know, like, what's my deal? What am I up to? What do I need to kind of scratch the itch? And then you have to, be conscious about it. Yogi Bhajan, he didn't say in relationships not to fight. He just gave a technology of what kind of fights there are, how to deal with confrontation, what it does to the nervous system of both men and women and any gender in between, because these are universal laws, and then how to maneuver it, because we have to have relay, else we're not. That's the whole human incarnation, is that we no longer are the ocean. We are a drop in the ocean. Now we have to have some sort of reverence and reference between self and other, and that's the exploration of what it means to be in a human incarnation. That's the baseline reason why you incarnate out of nothing, the whole kind of everything, to be something that is you, that is separate and not separate from the whole. So then you got to figure that out, and you have that relay, and that's what each relationship you're having, that's what you're doing. Just figuring that out. How does that work? Now, you've heard me say a million times, and I'll say it again, as Robert Frost says, one of my favorite Robert Frost poems, the last line. The last line is, he loved having thought of it so well, he'll say it again. Good fences make good neighbors. It's true too. I'll say, we'll just keep on saying this, because one of these days someone will catch it and your whole life will change. So, I'm just going to keep saying it. In your relay, if you decide consciously, now subconsciously there's a lot going on, so then we have to deal with the subconscious. But if you decide at least consciously, and then you're also simultaneously doing some practices to deal with the subconscious patterns, what you want to have a bigger experience of in the relay, what is magnificent and beautiful and inspiring and just amazing about this other human. If you kind of make, and then you in a very disciplined way, that's what you amplify in every kind of interaction. That's stage one of having a really good relationship. Now, stage two. If you add this to it, this gets to a much more sophisticated place, which is now you've identified what you want to have a bigger experience of in this person in front of you. What makes you, why you're attracted to them to begin with, what is amazing about them, what is inspiring. So you have that under you understand that. Then stage two is you identify what it is that they want to have a bigger experience of in the relationship. And then you amplify that for them. Now, I was reading a study last night. It sounds simple, right? No problem. Well, if we did this, the divorce rate would go way down, and we would have, just massively better relationships. But, so it sounds, simple. Stage one and stage two, we don't remember what they are, right? Because we're thinking, like, are we going to do yoga? What's happening around here? The air conditioning is blowing on my, foot. We are very concerned about our own discomfort. And this is another reason why we don't have good relationships, because we're not paying attention. We're not paying attention to anybody but ourselves. Now, I just read a very interesting study last night, that they did with men. What makes men, so again, this could be a same-sex relationship, or this could be a heteronormative relationship, or if you have some sort of configuration where there's multiple people in your relationship, whatever's going on, these are the men in the relationship, okay? However many there are, I mean, go for it. It's the Aquarian age. So the more the merrier, Okay, so what makes a man commit in a relationship? They've done, now some very extensive studies, and they just came out with some pretty amazing research. Does anybody know what they think it is? It's how the other person makes them feel. If it's how the other person, it's the energy that the other person, and this is what, so they've done all these studies of like what it is. There's people who are never single because they there's always somebody there, and you're like, how is it, I'm just as, good looking and, successful and all this kind of stuff. They went through all of the categories of like, okay, because a lot of what's happening right now is a lot of kind of career women and post fourth wave of feminism. And then now I'm writing a book about the fifth wave of feminism. So this kind of, what's happening is like, okay, like I got my career. I got my scene together. I'm economically independent. I'm independent in every way. I can even have a child by myself. I mean, who cares about this male species on the planet? I mean, that's kind of, part of the attitude, right? And I made the Women in Immense Grace answer this question: why were men put on Earth? Some of them had a hard time with answering. No, I am not kidding. I'm like, you guys need to get it together. So that's a mess. No, but we're not going to heal these kind of collective wounds if we can't figure out what we're doing, right? And what's happening. So they did all these categories. It's like how hot the woman was. This isn't a heteronormative study, but these are universal kind of stuff because this is a limbic system thing. So how hot the woman was, how successful the woman was, how charming she was, age, her age, all these things that women think that it's the reason why they would be attractive. They went through all of those categories, and none of them were as important as the energy and the evocation of kind of how good the man feels in your presence. Now, we know this in the tantric yogas. These are the secrets of how to create a powerful relay, because you make people feel good. You make them feel good about themselves, about the environments, now, sounds simple, right? But what are we doing all the time? We're locking into negative relay, and basically, if you see, this is a very common thing. You go out to dinner with people who like just got together, and they're all like snuggly, and it's honeymooning and all that kind of stuff, and happy chemicals and all this. And then a year later, you see them, and they just look like they've been drugged through a war. Have you ever seen that with your friends? It's much easier to see it with other people. So you see them, and you're like, oh, things must not be going very well. You can always tell when a couple comes in, they've been fighting for hours. I mean, it's very obvious in the aura, or they fight that's what they do. You can just tell. I mean, it is this stuff, you think you're hiding it, you're not hiding it. It is very obvious if a relay is amplifying positive and really helping each other to become better people, or if it isn't. And there's not that much gray area, because these things are cycles and patterns. And I'm not going to go through this now. We're going to have a relationship intensive in February. So I'm not going to go through this because this is very sophisticated. But we're going to actually bring, everybody together and make each other, do some stuff with each other as a part of Immense Grace. But Yogi Bhajan actually goes through the fight cycles of the male and the female, and what happens in the glandular system, and how many hours, and what kind of fight it is. I mean, this is very advanced stuff. We don't have time quite to break this down right now. But this is, if you really want to become a mad scientist of relationship, you can take this into a very sophisticated place. But let's just start at the very beginning. And the very beginning is the most important part, which is that you now are in phase 2. You know what you want to have a bigger experience of, and so you're creating that transmission. You're creating that hypnosis with the other person. which is not like, pretending they're not who they are. It's taking what they are and amplifying it, making it better, focusing on it, praising them, giving them the opportunity to display their love and affection. And most of us are just, pushing each other away and, all of our kind of subconscious patterns. Now, that stuff is going to be happening anyways. So if you can consciously try to work with this, it's going to help with the subconscious, version of my parents neglected me and, you're going to leave me just like they did, all of our kind of stuff like that. So this kind of conscious relay will at least help a little bit, and then you can work with this subconscious deconstruction, which is what we're always doing, what we're about to do right now. So then you decide, you kind of get what they want to have a bigger experience of. Well, if you're in a relationship with a man, he wants to have a bigger experience of feeling good, basically. And if you really make him feel good, then he's going to want to be around you more. And then if you really make him feel good, he's going to want to be around you more. And then that's what basically creates the biophysiology of a desire to commit. Because men need relationship more than women need relationship, even though women are more focused on relationship. Or let's call it the feminine principle if you want to take it out of gender. The feminine principle is a connective principle, where the masculine principle is emptiness in a certain way. So however those show up in, any kind of gender spectrum, it's universal law. So you've kind of figured out what this person wants to have a bigger experience of. Now, you can get specific about it, but let's just be in general. If you're relaying with a man, whether he's a business partner or a son, or he wants to be, made to feel good. And the male ego is also a very interesting kind of construction. It's different than the female ego. Both have egos. It's just a different construction. So you amplify what's good, and then, you focus on it. And then you focus on the thing that you want to have a bigger experience of. You have both things going, then you don't have to drag the person into some sort of self-help scenario. Because you've amplified what's good about them. You're giving them, you're amplifying what they want to have a bigger experience of. Now, there are some tricky ones. There's some tricky people out there who want to have a bigger experience of their anger. They're displaying some of those behavioral things, right? So we could call those the narcissists. People love to call people narcissists. I always know that when somebody brings that into the room, they're a narcissist. Because nobody, it's like I always date narcissists. It's like, that's because you're a narcissist. Because nobody else uses that term. It's only narcissists use the word narcissist, which is all of us. So welcome to the party. They had to take that out of the diagnostics because everyone's a narcissist. But people love, that's a big one I get. Like, well, I'm always dating narcissists. Well, basically what that is describing is you don't have enough energy to give the whatever created the narcissism, which is childhood trauma. To give that, kind of to put it to bed and to make the person feel good and to, get over yourself, and then also to amplify what you got into the relationship to begin with. Because narcissists usually are charismatic and cool people. That's because they're everybody. So you're amplifying. So then you're playing the game, and that person feels good around you because you're amplifying, the good things about them, and then you feel good because you're getting what you think you want in relationship. Sounds simple, right? Good luck out there. May the odds forever be in your favor. All right, let's do some yoga. Let's see how you do it. Just do it tonight. See what you can do. Because if you start to do this in your relationships, everything's going to change, and you're not going to drag the people around trying to make them change. Better, right? I mean, I can't tell you. I work with women all around the world, so I get to hear all their complaints in every language, which is the complaint is always, the guy is not, if it's a heteronormative situation, it's like the guy is not spiritual or he's not progressing as fast as I am. There's all that kind of stuff. That's your problem. A spiritual woman can basically, in her presence, spirit is known. So get it together. That people don't like to hear me say that. It's the truth. A woman holds caliber in relationship. So if you bring that spirit into the room or into they're not going to know what hit them, and they want to come back for more. And that's just the way it goes. That's a spiritual kind of energy that you're bringing. Now, you can add some things to it, like we worked with yesterday. You can add a little second chakra to it. If you're balanced in your lower chakras, we're not repressed about our sexuality. Yogi Bhajan was very like, if you're celibate, you're going to go cuckoo. We have a lot of examples of that, don't we? Celibacy, no, for periods of time, fine, but it's not we're not like trying to get celibate. A lot of yogic traditions, that's what they're trying to do, and things go just as bad as they've gone in that, church situation. I mean, it doesn't work for humans, and Yogi Bhajan would go off about it. So we just, you take a nice balance, pelvic ignition, open intuition, open heart, and then you're consciously kind of working with what this person wants to have a bigger experience of. You're helping them to have it. That's love. That's compassion. And if you have a tricky person who has had a lot of, we'll call it, I dated this one guy, and Hadi Jivan would be like, it's a special file this guy has. Sometimes we have special people. They need special files, so it's not completely cut and dry. But you got to know that. And then you have to work because you're working with someone who's damaged, basically, which is a lot of people. Now, you can still have great relationships with those people. You have to be a little bit more conscious. So if you're dealing with somebody who, likes to have a bigger experience of the anger, can you let them do that without freaking out? The answer is usually no. And that's the issue. So then we can't really, and what you'll find is the thing will totally change if you know how to work with it and maneuver it. But these are complex teachings. It's simple and yet so hard to follow. So we'll keep on kind of touching in here. There's so much to learn. And I wanted to put this in Invincible Living, but we decided to take it out. The last chapter I wrote was relationship chapter. It was really hard to write. And then, people have told me over these years that it's their favorite chapter. I'm very surprised because it was very hard to simplify and give kind of without being too heteronormative, giving, stuff that people can take away in a small amount of, but the rules are quite simple. It's just the application of them and what keeps us from actually applying this. Because when you think of it, you're like, of course I want my whoever. I mean, if you're in the dating world, if you apply this, so you go out on a date with someone and you amplify everything that is beautiful about them, because we're very intuitive, what's beautiful about the person is they may be beautiful physically, they're kind, they have, they talk about their kids, they love their children. There's lots of things to love about someone right away. I mean, if you're a lover, you fall in love all the time, all day long. Love is love. So somebody's in front of you, maybe they're not your laundry list of, one of these girls, I had a friend, and she's still single. She had, as the screensaver, her list of things. I'm just like, whoa, girl. Now, if you're dating that way, you're going to come empty-handed. Empty-handed you go, come empty-handed you go, because you're looking for, it's a beggar's way to date. So instead, you come full to give. Who knows if you'll ever see this person again? This is the land of online dating, right? Who knows if you'll ever see this person again? Or maybe you're just DMing each other and you practice this. Amplify what's good about them. Find out beautiful things about them. Turn them towards the positive. You're a yogi. The more lives you can touch in the way that you go about your life, this is service to humanity. So it's not just about getting yours all the time. It's not just about your laundry list of the, I'm, 28% attracted to this person. And, people are, my advice is if you're about 28% attracted to the person, that's a good number. You should go on a second date. I'm not kidding. That means the subconscious familial patterns are less activated. If you're super, super, super attracted, that means this is Bob, as Hadi Jivan would call it. In Emperor's New Clothes, Bob. That means you're really, really, really hot for this person. Usually. It's not always that way, but you can tell by how so if you're just 35, 40% attracted, give them another chance. and make them feel good. And and you're going to always be getting asked on other dates. This whole ghosting thing in the dating community, that's because you don't know how to make people feel good, and you're all about your own. You're playing games and intrigues and some bullshit and childhood traumas, and nobody wants to deal with that. They're busy drowning in their own shit. All right, did we get some good dating advice? I no longer can teach you guys how to sext with the peach emoji because it's now become like a politicalized emoji. Have you seen this? Lizzo, impeachment or something. She used it, as a tweet, and now the peach is becoming very politicized. Okay, let's do some, is that funny? Okay, let's do some cat cow. Thanks so much for listening to another lecture on reality riffing. These are conversations and topics that I think are very important to discuss. If you enjoyed, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and share with your friends and your family. If you also want to continue to listen, bigger lectures and classes and other experiences are available on gurujagat.com.